everybody! Svetan Patak, happy Friday. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5 Question Friday. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Croatia time, I answer 5 questions from people who have sent them in on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, expatinCroatia.com, my consulting sessions, and people who send me postcards. So today I have 5 great questions, and I have tons to tell you about, starting with the amazing thing that's been happening the last couple of days. So, I think I told you last week, there is a German company that has a YouTube channel, and they do documentaries on German-speaking self-employed people around the world. It's a pretty neat project, and they made an exception for me, because I do not speak German at all, not in the slightest, nothing. So they heard about me from a lovely lady here in Split who is German. And so they came down from Germany, and the last 2 days they've been filming a documentary about me, which is pretty neato and kind of crazy. So yesterday we walked around Split while they just kind of filmed me walking around, and I ran into a few people, and I met a client, someone that I met over Zoom. He's working at a bar I really like. And so he's like, "Hey, Sarah, I've never met you in person." And I was like, "Hey." So that was pretty cool. And we got ice cream at my favorite place, Emiliana Romana. It was fantastic. They were very impressed. And then today we went and filmed the actual interview part, which was pretty intense. Jamie! I owe you a message, Jamie. I'm pretty late on that reply, but hi, I'm so glad you're here. Love you too. Mwah! Okay, so today, if you know Split, we went to beach bar Jadran, which Jadran is not just a beach bar, it's also like a beach scene. Not like a beach in the traditional sense, but it's considered a beach in Split terms. It has its own little beach community. It hasn't got quite into the full swing of things yet, so we were able to do the interview there. We were supposed to do it at D16 this afternoon, but they saw Zvanšac and Jadran yesterday when we were up on Sustipan, and they just kind of fell in love with it, and the weather really worked out, and it wasn't super loud, so we ended up doing it this morning, like through the afternoon. It was like 6 hours. I gotta tell you, I am like rallying right now, because all I want to do is lay like this and just be, feed me grapes. Talking is exhausting, but it was really fascinating. Marlene is the one who came up with the questions, and she asked me the questions, and they were really fun to answer. You know, I've done a lot of podcasts at this point, and there are some questions that tend to come up a lot, like how you started Expat in Croatia, why did you come to Croatia, that kind of thing. But she gave me like a packet of 70 questions. There were so many things that she asked me. So I'm super jazzed, really excited about what this is going to look like in the end, because I dive a lot deeper because of the questions she asked. And there was one emotional moment. I have a tendency to get emotional about certain things. So I think it's going to come out really great. I'm not quite as eloquent as I usually am because my brain is kind of like slush from this thing, but it was an amazing experience. The crew was great, so I want to give a shout out to Loren and Moritz. They were amazing. They were the camera guys. And then Marlene, fantastic interviewer. She made me feel so comfortable, and that's super important whenever you're doing any kind of interview. You want to make sure that you feel comfortable and safe. So that was really fantastic. I shared a few pictures behind the scenes, and I don't know when it's going to be out. They said it takes time to do the production, so my guess is it's going to be at least a couple of months, but whenever it comes out, I'll be sure to let you know. I can't tell you the name of the YouTube channel because it's a really long German word. I have no idea how to pronounce it, but we've tagged them in our stories. So if you're curious about the other documentaries that they do, go and check them out. Okay. What else do I want to tell you? So I have mentioned probably a few times that I am part of a new association here in Split. It's the Foreign Business Owners Association of Split, Dalmatia. It is for both business owners in the county of Split, Dalmatia, but also people who are remote workers who are self-employed who happen to be living in Split, Dalmatia. I have an update. Our Udruga is officially a real thing. Yes! So it took a couple of months for the government to process all of our paperwork, but this week they finally approved it. We are officially in Udruga, and it's so exciting. Now we just have to open up the bank account, and the president, Jeff, he went to go do that this week, and they said, you're missing a piece of paper. You need to get this from FINA. And then he went to FINA, and FINA was like, you're missing a piece of paper. So he got the little roundabout. So that might take a little bit of time, but nevertheless, it's a real thing. We're super excited. Me and one of my colleagues are building the site for the association, and once a month, every third Friday, we have an event here in Split. We have educational presentations and member introductions, and there's networking opportunities. So if you are self-employed or you're a business owner, I highly recommend you join us. It's super fun. We're all amazing people, and we do not bite hard. So if you're interested in that, send us a DM and we will send you the information so you can keep track of our future events. What's next? VJ, send us a DM and we will send you the information so you can find out how to participate in that association. I hope you join us. Okay, so next, I'm going to Zadar on Sunday. Yay! So I think I told you last week I'm going to the Brand Minds conference in Bucharest next week. But the only direct flights are through Zadar, which I don't mind at all because I have some amazing friends in Zadar that I met through Expat in Croatia, and I love going to see them. So it's a great opportunity for me to go and hang out with some friends. And then I've got some friends down from Zagreb who are staying in Zadar for the weekend. So I'm going to go and check everybody out, say hi, enjoy Zadar for a few days, and then I will pop over to Bucharest. So we will not have an episode of 5 Questions next Friday because I will be in the midst of that conference and I don't know exactly where I'm going to be. So it's going to be pretty hard for me to do that, but I will be back the following week after that. If you want to follow me on my Romania and Zadar adventures, then follow here on Stories and you'll see what I'm doing. Okay, so next, this is episode 98. Now, that means that in 2 more episodes, we will be on our 100th episode, which is absolutely bonkers that it has been 100 episodes. I feel very proud of myself for staying committed to this, but it's because you love this. Or at least you've told me that you love 5 Question Friday. I love meeting fans of 5 Questions. It really warms my heart because at the very beginning, I think people around me were like a little skeptical, like who's going to come and watch you talk about bureaucracy? And I'm like, I'm telling you, I believe in this. This is going to happen. People are going to enjoy it. And you proved me right. So we had a bit of a math issue. I was convinced that June 6th was the 100th episode. Convinced! Which is why I told you last week, not June 6th, June 9th. Sorry guys, my brain is just bleh. I was convinced that June 9th was going to be the 100th episode. And we invited people to join us. So we're having 5 fans join us for that episode. We wanted to make sure that we did something super special for it. We told all of them June 9th. And then about 15 minutes before this episode today, I called up Danielle and I'm like, Danielle, I did the math wrong. It's not the 100th episode on June 9th. It's not till June 16th because today's 98. So our 100th episode is going to be on June 16th, barring some kind of giant act of God emergency. So keep your fingers and toes crossed that does not happen. And we hope you'll be here and you can meet some of the other fans of Expat, 5 Question Friday. I'm not doing my best work right now, guys. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so tune in June 16th. All right, the last thing I want to tell you before we dive into the questions. So on May 31st, which I believe is next Wednesday, but I could be wrong. But May 31st, there's going to be an event here in Split, and it's going to be a panel discussion on practices and experiences of international women in business. And our very own Lucia Peric will be moderating that discussion. We're so jazzed that she's going to be participating in that. It's a free event. It's at Hotel Ambassador. It starts at 5. If you would like any information on that, it is in our stories, but you can also send us a DM, and we'd be more than happy to share that information with you. I'm so disappointed that I'm going to be missing that, But I know that Danielle and Lucia will be there, and I'll be able to see some highlights, and they'll be posting highlights on our stories as well. So yay, yay. June 16th is your birthday. Amazing. Oh, fantastic. Well, I hope you will join us if you have time, but if not, that's okay. I hope at a minimum you have lots and lots of cake, because birthdays mean cake. All right, we're going to dive into the questions now. All right, so first, this is from John. He sent this in on email. Last year, I was granted a temporary residence permit. When applying for it again this year, will I have to supply another criminal record check? The first permit expired last November, and I was told I would have to leave for 6 months before I could apply again, which will be this May. Okay. In his case, yes, he does have to provide another background check. You don't have to provide a background check if you have already been living in Croatia for the previous 12 months. But if your permit ends and then you leave Croatia for any amount of time and you don't have a permit in Croatia, then yes, when you apply again after that 6 months, you do have to have another criminal record check. That's just the way it goes. So yes. The only case when you don't have to have it, just so we're crystal clear on this, is if you go from one permit to another back to back with no time in between. So one ends and the other begins. Okay, next, this comes from Scott. Aw, one of my favorite fans out there, Scott and his wife. We helped them obtain citizenship. They worked with one of our lawyers, and they always love to share their stories with us. They actually talked about them in the documentary today. So when they got citizenship, they sent us a picture of them at the consulate in LA taking the oath for citizenship, and I was like, oh, it's so cool. I love being on that journey. So Scott asked, I just learned from my online Hrvatski tutor that the government has mandated that most businesses must close on Sundays beginning July 1st. Not clear if it applies to food markets or bakeries or the like, but thought this might be a good subject for 5 Question Friday, ? Well, you put a question mark at the end, so it's a question, so therefore it qualifies. Yes, this is true. This is absolutely true. It's to force people to take time off. And it's going to be an adjustment. I lived in Budapest, Hungary for about 6 months, and they have this policy there. At least they did at the time when I lived there, and you definitely have to make an adjustment to it. So, in the final proposal of the law on trade, the new law should come into force on July 1st. It's going to affect stores, shopping centers, but also bakeries. They should be closed on Sundays as well as holidays. Merchants can choose 16 Sundays a year when they can work. The exception applies to stores at railway and bus stations, airports and ferry ports, inland navigation ports, ships, airplanes and ferries, gas stations, hospitals, hotels, cultural and religious institutions, and other subjects in culture, museums, visitor centers or interpretation centers, nautical marinas, camps, family farms, and protected nature areas. The exception as well applies to the purchase of primary agricultural products and the sale of agricultural products at stands and benches at markets, sales at fairs and public events, sales through vending machines, and distance sales. I presume that distance sales means purchases online. That would be my guess. Now, this was in our newsletter. So we put out a newsletter every Tuesday. Super, super proud of it. And inside of that newsletter, we include actionable news items. So we read the Croatian news and then we summarize the most impactful ones on your daily life in English so that you don't have to go searching for it in Croatian. And this was in our March newsletter. So if you want to follow that, send us a DM and we'll send you a link on how you can subscribe to that newsletter. And I'm so excited and happy to announce that we just hit 8,000 subscribers on our newsletter. And I'm really proud of Maria. Maria Tkalitz, our content manager, she's the architect of our newsletter, and she does an amazing job. Thank you so much, Maria, for making that happen. Okay, our next question comes from Anna. She submitted this on our 5 Question Friday forum, which you can get at the link in our bio or in our newsletter or on the website. If you get EU citizenship, how do you go about getting a container or refab tiny home? Can you buy a small piece of land and import a container home? There are quite a few EU builders and quite a few containers come into the Rijeka port. So citizenship doesn't have anything to do with it on whether or not you can have a container and put it on land. As far as the land itself, that's something separate. So anyone who is from a country that has a reciprocity agreement with Croatia can purchase residential land. And then in terms of agricultural land, only Croatian citizens and Croatian companies can buy that until the end of June, when the ban is lifted for EU citizens. So there's the land and then there's the container home. Now, as far as the container home is concerned, I did speak to one of our property lawyers about this. And what she said is you need a building permit based on the urban plan for that area. So even though it's a container home without a foundation, it's still treated like real estate property, which I thought was really interesting. Okay, thank you so much, Anna, for that question. So our last two questions today are actually from the team. So one of them is from Danielle, our social media manager. Is a filter enough for a boil tap water advisory? Excellent question. I don't know if this happens around in other parts of Croatia, but in Split, when we have a lot of rain, they give us a boil advisory, which essentially means the water can make you sick, so boil it before you drink it. So everything gets all stirred up, and sometimes it can give you stomach issues. Let's just leave it at that if you drink the water during a water advisory. So other than boiling water, Danielle wants to know, like, will a water filter work? Look, I'm not an expert on this. I'm going to speak to you about my experience. It's probably going to depend on the quality of the filter. I have always filtered my water. I've been filtering my water for, well, since I was in college. That's when I got my first one. So 20 years ago, I guess, is when maybe more. I went off to college in 2001. Yes, that's how old I am. Yeah, that's how long I've been filtering my water. So I continue to drink that filtered water when there's a boil advisory in Split, and I have not had any problems with that. It works really, really well. The kind of filter I use is a super powered one. So I use Berkey. I love Berkey. It's actually a Texas company. They're headquartered actually really close to where I grew up in Grapevine, Texas. Great company. You buy filters like once a year or something like that, and you can buy them in Europe. So that's the one that I use. Now look, I have to address the elephant in the room. Croatians are going to say that the water is super clean here, and the data suggests that Croatian water is some of the cleanest in Europe, and I stand by that. It is very clean water. It's very tasty water. Here's the problem. The water may be clean, but that doesn't mean the pipes are. And if you put clean water in old rusty pipes, then the water is not clean anymore. Now, the pipes, the quality of the pipes around Croatia definitely varies quite a bit. The first building I lived in here in Split, the pipes were garbage. There's a very good chance that building was built illegally. I don't know for certain, but I know in that neighborhood, a lot of the buildings were built illegally. So that may have been a part of it. But I remember cleaning the filters, and I could scrape like rusty sludge off the filters. And then at the last apartment I lived in that I rented, there was still rust, but not quite as much. The building I'm in now, there's no rust on the filters, when I go to clean them. So should you filter your water in Croatia? That's your preference. I've had Croatians in my home who get offended by the filter and don't want it because, I don't know, they think they're going to steal their soul or something. Hey, look, I understand the pride in having clean water for sure. It's nothing like what we have in the States. There are a lot of places in the States where you can't drink the water from the tap. People have, like my aunt in Florida, like she has bottled water in her house because you can't drink the water. It smells, it has a color, like it's not good. So that's how I got in the habit of doing it. And when I moved here, I just continued to do that. I really like the taste of the filtered water. If you want to understand more about the quality of Croatia's water, we do have a post on this, on whether or not the tap water is safe. The tap water is safe. I want to be abundantly clear about that. But there are some places in Croatia that have poor quality pipes, and that is just the reality. So if you want to know more detail about that situation, send us a DM and we'd be happy to send you a link about that. Okay, so last question of the day. This one comes from Carol Ann, our newest member. And if you have not seen her introduction video, you gotta go see it. I think it was a couple of days ago now. We posted a introduction. So Cam introduced herself. She goes by Cam. Her name's Carol Ann, but her nickname is Cam. She introduced herself and took us on a tour of her village. Super cool. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Okay, so this is Cam's question. I know Sarah chose to apply under Article 12 so that she could keep her U.S. citizenship. What made it worth it? Article 12 seems like so much more work. Would Article 8 have been an easier route, like a no-brainer in Sarah's case? So my guess is that this question came up because Cam right now is in training on bureaucracy because she's becoming a junior consultant. She's going to be taking over consulting from me. So my guess is this is how that question came up. So I'm applying for citizenship. Well, I applied for citizenship is more like it. I applied last June and now I'm just patiently waiting for a decision. I applied based on Article 12, which is special interest, which means you have to show that that you are of interest to Croatia, that it is in the country's best interest to give you nationality, you provide a benefit to the country, that kind of thing. I could have applied based on Article 8, as Cam noted, because I have lived in Croatia long enough. I hold long-term residence, which are the two major prerequisites. I feel very confident that I could pass the culture and history test, which is in Croatian. So why not naturalize? And the reason is because I didn't want to give up my American citizenship. And that's what they would have made me do if I had gone that route. It's kind of a bummer that that's something that Croatia requires you to do if you naturalize, because there are lots of different paths to Croatian nationality, or Croatian citizenship, I should say. But it's only people who naturalize that are asked or required to give up their other nationalities. So just to be clear, the only people who naturalize are ones who don't have heritage and they're not married to a Croatian citizen and they're not here because of some kind of refugee status. So there are very, very few people who even get to that point because Croatia's immigration system is built in a way to prevent you from getting to that point. So you really gotta wanna live in Croatia and jump through lots of hoops of fire to be able to even get to that stage where you could qualify to naturalize. And then for all of your troubles, you have to give up your other nationalities. I don't really care for that. I don't like that. But I feel grateful, very, very grateful, that there was another path available to me. That makes me very happy because I am so excited to be a Croatian citizen. I am nearly jumping out of my skin. I heard from one of my lawyers today, because I have many, many lawyers now, and they said that they might do a drop-in in Zagreb to see what's going on. So I'm really excited about that. But that's why. And yes, Article 12 is a lot of work. It was mega expensive. I think I spent at least 25,000 kuna on translations alone. And that doesn't even include the cost to get all the documents in apostilled. I got my birth certificate 3 times. 3 times! And my background check twice! So it's very costly. I would have much rather have naturalized, but the only reason I didn't is because I would have had to give up my American citizenship. And if I'm going to do that, I don't know that I will, but if I do that, I want that to be my decision, not Croatia's decision. That seems fair to me. So thank you, Cam, for asking that question. I hope that makes sense. If you are curious about Article 12 for any reason, we do have a nifty guide. You can DM us and I'll share it. And actually, I wrote that piece, and not only do I explain how it works and what it's about and everything, I explained everything about my case. So I have a bulleted list of every single document that I included in my application. So if you're curious about that, send us a DM and we'll be happy to send it to you. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for being here and being a little patient, because my brain's a little squishy and dead from the documentary today, but I can't wait for you to see it. I wish it didn't have to be a couple of months, but it's like a proper production. I don't think I've ever seen so much camera equipment, but it was so cool. We were on Jadran, and at Jadran, like, you've got the sea and you've got Marion Hill in the background and Chiovo Peninsula. Like, it was an amazing background. So I understand why they decided to do it outside in the end, with a lot of beachgoers kind of going back and forth in the background. Anyways, that's it, guys. So I will see you in 2 weeks. I will definitely post updates on my stories, or on our stories, from Zadar and Bucharest. And then I will see you on June 9th for the 99th episode of 5 Question Friday. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Sarah of Expat in Croatia. If you're just joining us, there'll be a replay in the profile here in a couple of minutes. Have a magnificent weekend. And yeah, see you soon. Vidimo, say ciao. Bye.